Hello, hello, hello.
Dave,
How you doing?
how are you?
Yeah, good. How are you?
Dave, the truth is, you haven't aged much from that first picture in your new book.
Oh, you don't have to say that. You don't have to say that. But
He
thank
does.
you.
It's
It's
actually
true.
it's contractual.
It's true. Look at him.
I
Maybe
think
he's
it's
got
the
some filter on.
downlighters. It's this sympathetic downlighting in the studio. If there's anything
Where?
from
Yeah.
the
Where are you?
the old Warner Brothers building has now been reimagined as a kind of arts centre kind of thing. And I was walking down Dean Street 6 months ago thinking, oh, wasn't it great when everybody used to have studios in Soho? Wasn't that a wonderful time? We all used to go around each other's studios. Those were the days. And I nearly tripped over this sign saying studios for hire. And the old Warner Brothers building, it's got a big theatre in. It's got a bunch of offices upstairs where various lunatics are doing various stuff. And it's
Oh,
got
I
a
can't think where
theatre.
that is.
I think you were sleeping in a curb once at about 4 a.m. and I might have tripped over you. Is that? Do you know where? Yeah.
Oh,
Woke
yeah,
up in
yeah.
a Soho doorway.
Yeah. Policeman didn't know my name though.
Yeah. What kind of thing are you making in there?
I do film and TV scores. That's what I do when I'm not doing anything else, when I'm not doing Blur. So I'm working on 2 series at the moment, one for the BBC, one for Netflix.
Amazing.
Wow. Have you do that a lot, Dave?
Yeah, that's my day job these days, really.
Right. So that's 2 of you out of the band doing that.
Damon's
isn't it?
done
You
them,
and Graham.
has done them as well. But
Yeah.
he
How
doesn't
do you
like
get
it
into that? My son has a passion for that, and it's just getting into that. Is how did you get into that?
Yeah, I got into it because my girlfriend is a music supervisor, and she got me to do lots of little jobs for her, where there was no money and it had to be done overnight for tomorrow morning. So I ended up with a show reel and a bunch of directors owing me favours, basically. And I got, off the back of that, I got to do the Bros film. Do you remember that? Came out a few years
Oh
ago.
my God! Yes.
Did that with a friend of mine, and
Well,
nothing
did you
happened
add the kind of like? So it was like this is all happening for us now, and oh no, we're all falling apart kind of thing.
Exactly that. Exactly that. I'm in charge of, oh no, we're all falling apart. That's my speciality.
Mwah, mwah, mwah.
Either we're all falling apart or one person is running, chasing another person. They're the 2 things I do.
Exactly. So the book, No One You Know, is really sweet. It's so sweet to look at. It feels almost like you shouldn't be looking at it because the pictures are, I mean, not there's anything sexual or any drug taking in it. They're just so private almost, and it's because I suppose, and it's really because nowadays everybody is putting pictures up non-stop on social media and they're all filtered and they're all, they pretend to be natural, but none of them really are. But there really is the sense of the private about these pictures.
Yeah. And that's something you can only get, isn't it, when it's your mates taking the picture. So everyone's off guard. No one's posing. No one's acting out for the camera. And this is all long way pre-smartphones where that kind of thing was expected.
Well, also it means that every shot counts. Every shot is money. And it has to be, and it's finite. So there's that, I think there's that little bit more care that goes into every photo, isn't there?
Pressing the button
now.
Yeah, that's the thing about film. And the thing that killed my interest in photography really when digital started was there's some jeopardy in pressing the shutter, isn't there? It's going to cost you money to develop, it's going to cost you money to print, and you're going to end up with a thing. There's no delete button to get rid of this thing. You're presented with it, either through the post or from the developer, and there's some kind of judgment attached to it. So yeah, there's jeopardy attached. So you have to the process of taking a film camera photo, I think, is quite different. You have to look through the lens and think, do I actually want that? So do I want that enough to pay money for it? Whereas with digital, it's like, fuck photos. Take a million photos. Cost me nothing to do. It's just to take photos everywhere.
Yeah, well, also because when you took a picture with a proper camera, you're taking yourself out of the moment, aren't you? You're not just doing that. You're out. You're in the camera now.
Yes.
You kind of.
Yeah, looking through the viewfinder is an odd thing as well. Kind of, there are definitely pluses and minuses with that, as opposed to looking at a screen on a phone. It does disengage you from the scene, puts you in spectator mode rather than participant mode, and affects the photos you take, I think. Not that.
So it's funny. So who took the pictures of you? Because there's quite a lot of you.
There's some of them are proto selfies, so I shall actually be licensing the idea of selfie to this.
Yeah, no one had ever done that. Amazing.
Collecting royalties on that one.
Well, the truth is, no one really did do it that often.
It was a hard thing.
I mean,
to do.
I've got hundreds of trannies in my house. Sorry, they used to be innocently called trannies.
In the Blitz days, maybe, yeah.
But they did, and there's not one selfie in there. You know, what are they called?
Negatives.
No, they're not negatives. No,
slides.
Slides.
Contact sheets.
Slides.
Yes. Yeah, it's a hard thing to do. It's easy on a cell phone because you can see the picture you're taking, but with a camera you can't. Equally, some of them I just gave the camera to whoever was goofing around, whoever I'd just taken a picture of, I'd give them the camera and they took a picture of me.
It's interesting because as I said earlier, when I had a camera that I could afford to buy, I think when we first got signed. Actually, I must have had it earlier because I took a lot of pictures of my brother at home, getting ready to go out and stuff before we were signed. So I must have invested in a camera from my Saturday job. But then there's lots of pictures of me on the road with Spandau, us in New York, and all those early days, first album, and then it stops. And if you look at the Beatles, McCartney takes his camera on that first American tour, and then he stops, doesn't he? Is that a thing? Do you think, or did you keep going, Dave?
No, I didn't keep going. I think it's a thing because certainly for me, I started taking pictures before we were signed and carried on taking for the first few years because that was when everything was brand new and exciting. It wasn't at all clear because we were a tiny little band making what was then very unfashionable music. And it wasn't at all clear that this wasn't going to be our 15 minutes and I wanted to remember it. And that's why I took the pictures that I took. I didn't take us on stage. I didn't take the money shots that everybody else was taking. I took the little details, the things we were doing on the tour bus, the views out of the hotel window. I just wanted to remember all the minutiae and all the little details. After a few years, suddenly all that became rather routine and uninteresting. So I stopped taking pictures of it. But I'm sure that's true. Yeah. That must be true for everybody, mustn't it?
You talk in the beginning of the book, on the intro, about losing things, and that's kind of how the book started, isn't it? You've lost a few things in your life.
Yeah, I've lost a few very valuable things. I was in West London one day, and I popped up by Damon's studio, and he was just mixing El Mañana, which is for me one of his best and most beautiful songs, and I fell in love with it immediately. I said, "Could you just run me off a CD so I can play it in the car on the way home?" So he did me my own mix of El Mañana. That disappeared. No idea where it is. I think I may well have left it in the car and sold it, tantalizingly. But also we did an album called Think Tank where Banksy did the cover, and he turned up to a meeting one day and with a Polaroid of the artwork he was doing. And so we wanted to talk about that. And then I said at the end of the meeting, "Can I keep that?" And he said, "Yes, no worries." I said, "Would you mind signing it for me?" And he was kind enough to do so. So I think I've got one of the only signed Banksys in the entire universe. But of course, I then lost that. And thirdly, I lost the photos that now form the book. I put them in this shiny metal box, silver metal box, and put the lid on it. and could then rest assured that I'd done all that was necessary to safeguard the future generations' access to these photos, and then promptly lost the box. So it wasn't until I was with Graham at some award show or other, and we were talking about how every time you move house, you unpack, but there's always this small stack of boxes with crap in that you just never unpacking. We said, why on earth don't we just throw these boxes away? And so almost on the way to the tip, I thought, well, I better just check that these boxes do have the crap in that I thought. And lo and behold, the metal box, the shiny metal box is in there, as was the Banksy Polaroid.
Fantastic.
So
not unfortunately my own personal mix of Albarn, but there we are.
And what we can get from that, guy, is that Banksy is definitely a man, because there was some talk in the paper this week about possibly being a woman.
I was wondering, when Banksy turned up to the meeting, is he pixelated, like in real life? Although I've got the master CD of Music Is My Radar, which I remember I took somehow, I think, which turned up from when you and Damon came round my studio once, and when I told you about it, you went, "Well, it's a shame you haven't got one of the valuable ones."
Yeah, well, we've been on EMI our entire career, and EMI kept all their master tapes at Abbey Road. There was a fire at Abbey Road, so we've lost the masters of much of the early work. We don't have any instrumentals of all of the early songs, and we've had to reconstruct some of them from. I mean, mind you, these days with AI,
exactly, it's
do that. But we've lost. We've lost the originals of the first 4 or 5 albums.
Wow.
I mean, the one thing that comes across with the photos as well for me is how young everyone is, and I think in a way you don't get that when you look at old NMEs or sounds or whatever it might be. Everyone's posed and everyone's shot quite heroically or however they want to be shot, and we're in awe of them being in a band, but you see in these pictures that you're just a bunch of kids. I mean, what age are you at that point?
Well, we're all early 20s. Yeah. So very early 20s in some cases. But yeah, we are the absolute fresh-faced kind of wannabes, really.
And everyone is smoking everywhere. Everyone is smoking.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Everywhere.
Everyone in the
on the plane, in the bus, everywhere.
Yeah. I remember my very first plane flight. It was with my primary school, and we went on a school trip to Calais, and the stewardesses gave out cigarettes to the kids after takeoff. It was quite extraordinary.
How old were you all?
It was like, how
16.
they give out sweets on landing now. They had the same wicker baskets, but they were full of Embassy No. 6, and they just went up down the rows giving them out to the
and
kids.
So you all went in the toilet to smoke them.
In fact, but that's the thing. I think it's in Japan. There's and it looks like you're in that old, which I thought was a seating arrangement that they didn't have since the 60s, where you're kind of facing each other with a table, and that looks like you're up the pointy end of the plane.
Yeah, right? They used to, especially on JAL, the Japanese airline, and Virgin, they used to make a big thing of having these sort of loungy areas and loungy seats and a bar and that kind of thing. Of course, it's all been ripped out now and replaced with even more jammed in seats. But yeah, in the early 90s, when you checked in, you could book a table in the lounge, and yeah, you'd either get facing each other or sitting around this bar or.
But so you're flying business then?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I would think so. I mean, it was weird because in those days we used to call ourselves the poverty jet set because we were living on $5 a week each, and yet with the record companies were flying us around first class.
Yeah, it depends if it's promo, doesn't it? It's like if you're on tour, it's absolute shit. But if it's promo,
it's promo. They only charge half.
Yeah, that's right.
Back. So you go up.
Because you're paying for it. Exactly. Yeah.
We didn't think of anything like that in those days. It didn't occur to us that
How was it breaking for you in Japan? How was it breaking for you in Japan, Dave? What was the record that was doing it there?
We were big in Japan right from the first time we went. And it's the power of the music press, really, in those days. nobody outside the UK knew that you could be on the front cover of Melody Maker and without having a record out. You know, everybody just assumed that you were these massive bands if you're on the front cover of the music press. You know, we didn't even release a single until we were on the front cover of Melody Maker. But outside the UK, people just assumed you must be this kind of stadium band, so you're on the front cover of the music papers. So, you know, we were right from the off.
It sounded like it looks like. I mean, you turn up in Japan and there's a fan club already.
Yeah.
I'd seem.
Yeah, well, I actually had my own fan club in Japan called Dave Mania. I was there, and I still am now, the only member of Blur with their own fan club. It had half a dozen members, and they were all officials in the fan club, so they would all turn up with their badges with their name on and their role in the fan club. And they did a fanzine.
It's funny, isn't it? Drummers do get that. You know, I mean, Ringo had a very loving fan club, didn't he? And I wonder if drummers get a certain type of fan. Is it, you know, it's because you're not getting up the front mostly, are you?
Keeble?
Yeah, John Keeble had he had his own fan club, yeah, but not in that sort of sense. But it was, I don't know. I think, you know, because you're not up the front. I don't want to sound condescending here, Dave, but there is a sense of like, we support the guy at the back.
Yeah. Also a sense that the kind of least vocal one in the band, usually the fans get to project their own idea of who that's going to be on them.
Good answer.
Yeah.
That's true. I love the introduction, you know, and but I think the one thing I didn't know about you is, is it the way it's written, or is it true that you fly yourself?
I do, yeah. Yeah, I learned to do that in the mid-90s and have done it ever since. In fact, I'm a flying instructor.
Does Alex flies, does he?
Yeah, he's certainly used to. I don't think he's flown for a while, but yeah, he's certainly used to. And we used to fly. We shared a plane for a few years, and we would fly around together. In fact, I used to fly the band around at one point, and then one by one, they were told by their parents.
No wonder you stopped taking photographs.
Yes, they were told by their parents that they weren't allowed to get in a plane with me, and so I ended up.
Why? What happened? Was there an incident?
No, nothing's ever happened. I'm like, it's a badge of honor for me if everybody's asleep on landing. You know, I like to do the most boring flights imaginable.
Because I love the story in there about when the Battle of Britpop was going on, and you're flying over the channel.
Oh, yes.
I mean, it's like cabbage crates over the briny, isn't it? You know. Tell that story, Dave, because it's.
Yeah, Battle of Britpop week, I was on holiday in France. I used to go on holiday and fly with my girlfriend at the time, and we used to just fly around, get up in the morning, put a pin in the map and fly there, find a hotel, and do the same the next day. Lovely way to spend a week. And so I was flying back on the day the chart announcement was, and air traffic control got wind of what was going on and that I was in the air. And so every time I made a call with air traffic control, they'd tell me where they were up to in the charts. So I learned that we were number one in the air from the air traffic controllers at Elstree.
Did you do a celebratory loop the loop?
No, because that
did you go and buzz Supernova Heights?
No, I had my own private celebration in the cockpit.
Another thing that's fantastic, Dave, is where the title of the book comes from.
Yeah. Well, this was on
because I love the idea of that they would have those things on the scroll. Again, if you
let him tell it.
So I just said, if you want to tell it.
Yeah. So the first North American tour, I should say, we flew into Canada, picked up our very first tour bus in Canada, and then drove down through Canada, through Niagara Falls crossing, and then out into the States. And the bus was our very first tour bus, you know, and you know what the American tour buses are like. They're the complete opposite of the UK tour buses. They're all red velvet, glittery, glitzy, kind of slightly smelly, opulent. Guy, you've frozen.
Oh, have I? Oh, sorry. No, I'm sorry, because I remember ours being more kind of ranch style, suburban bungalow looking.
It was, wasn't it? When we last toured the States, it was a bit like that.
I think you kind of lucked out on the tour bus, frankly.
I think had we had that tour bus 15 years previously, we would have lucked out. But everything was rather more threadbare than you would hope for. But anyway, to us, it seemed impossibly glamorous. But the antidote to that was the bus driver, Kenny, who had the most mischievous and acerbic wit of anybody I've ever met before or since. And straight away he called us pinheads. You pinheads do this, pinheads do that. And the first thing he did was congregate us all around the front of the bus. And he had the destination scroll, because the bus had been in service at one point. He'd customized it and put his own text on the scroll. And all of them, because every time the bus pulled into a truck stop, the people would congregate around going, "Who's on the bus? Who's on the bus?" So the scroll had the various answers like rock stars, world tour, So he congregated us around the front of the bus. Day one, what should we put in the scroll to describe us? He took one look at us and scrolled all the way to the bottom, which was "No one you know." So that was written on the front of our bus for the entirety of this North American tour.
I love that, because that's the period we're talking about, really, isn't it? That's why the book ends up being called that, because to a lot of people, you were no one.
Absolutely, and in the States especially, we hadn't had any kind of hit over there. The record company had decided that it would be a great way of breaking the band if they could break us in America first, and then as if that ever works, and then we would return triumphant to the UK. Crazy idea, and what it actually meant was we spent millions of pounds schlepping around the US, playing to these tiny little clubs, to a bunch of Anglophiles, really, people who read the music press.
Right.
I can't say it wasn't extraordinarily good fun. It really was. But no one couldn't be more apt, actually. Nobody had a clue who we were.
But it's also, it could have been a great bluff, if you got the Smashing Pumpkins, say, that's on the bus, then, best way to keep people away.
Did you support anyone?
No, we've never really supported anyone other than our first couple of gigs. We certainly didn't do any support tours or anything like that.
Right. And who would your contemporaries have been around there? Is this kind of, because it's like Ben Folds 5, Pavement? Is it those sort of people?
They were, yes, but they were sort of a slightly the previous generation.
Right.
The Rentals were supported us on one of our tours. Do you remember them?
God, Radio Rentals.
No. That's where we bought our equipment from in the early days.
But that's an interesting question, and just to try and place where Blur felt they belonged in the world. Because up with Oasis, that's a kind of obvious sort of, in a way, springing out of the Smiths and indie rock, and then we had the Stone Roses, obviously.
Yeah, you were baggy. You were baggy at the beginning. You were baggy, weren't you?
But where was your allegiances in youth culture?
Well, Oasis hadn't really broken through at the time we started. It was Suede was our main bête noire in the early days. They had all the success we thought we deserved. But where did we feel we fitted? Yeah, we straddled the kind of end of Manchester and the beginning of grunge, really. I mean, when we were in the first time in the States, I think, or very early States tour, Nirvana released Nevermind, and that was the end of any kind of fey English people's ambitions in America for a long time. So, yeah, the first album, we tried to keep everybody happy, really. So there was some baggy-ish tunes, there was some grungy-ish tunes, there were some English-ish tunes. I mean, it was a weird potpourri of a type that we've made ever since, really. It's
when
quite
you were
hard.
When you were first getting together, and in those early days, which you talk about in the intro, and we can ask you more detail, but what were the bands that you were aspiring to? What was the scene? Colchester.
Well,
but
everybody in the band would have given you a very different answer to that question. You know, Alex wanted to be in Duran Duran, Damon wanted to be David Bowie, Graham wanted to be any of the bands on Creation Records at the time, and I wanted to be in a jazz band. So it was kind of that kind of pulling in 4 different directions was one of the magic ingredients, really. And as I'm talking about in the intro, it didn't really work as all pulling in these odd directions until Alex joined, and he was the last spoke to the wheel, really. Suddenly he balanced all of our rather eclectic visions for what the band was going to be with this kind of pure pop sensibility. And something
that's very funny, because I'm really sorry to interrupt, but because that's literally like Manny, who we had on last week. It's sort of if the bass player turns up last and it goes click.
Yep. And you know it. It's that odd thing, the odd chemistry thing between the members, that you know it when it happens. And for us, when Alex joined, we were immediately so much better than we had been previously. And Damon and Graham and I had been in myriad incarnations of Proto Blurs before for about 2 years. Really, we'd been hiring and firing other members, and the minute Alex joined, we wrote what would become the B-side of the first single, "She's So High."
Right.
The whole thing just suddenly worked. And Alex it seems to me Alex was a very odd bass player, not odd as a person, but odd in the kind of bass he played. It was all, I'd never played in a band with a bass player that thought he was the lead guitarist before. And it was...
if you mention Duran Duran, then you're talking about John Taylor style, bass licks based on Bernard,
Yeah. And Alex kind of played the tune in a way that was really odd and magical and unexpected. And it was almost like the vocals were doing a counterpoint to what Alex was doing. Utterly unexpected. I don't know if Alex was doing it deliberately or it just kind of flowed out of him. Or maybe he was just
the funny thing is, well, very often with musicians who have very unique, distinct things, it's like they actually don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's just that's the thing they do. And then, which isn't to demean anything.
But that melody with the bass, as I was mentioning with Duran, obviously, and Bernard. But then there's also Peter Hook, isn't there? I mean, and Hooky had that new sound.
Yeah,
I think
that's a more overt thing.
I think that's what Alex was influenced by, was Peter Hook. Peter Hook,
he was massive fan. He was always a massive New Order fan.
Yeah,
I know that.
Yeah.
The thing that's really weird, is that Graham was playing sax, right?
Yes, in the early days, super early days, Graham had almost given up on the guitar because I think he found it too easy. So sax was his second instrument, and so he was trying to reintroduce sax into indie rock music, something he didn't do entirely successfully at that point. But
that was very 80s sax, let's face it.
Yeah, it was kind of the generation before. But you can imagine, what Graham's guitaring is like, so you can just imagine what his sax playing was like. He certainly wasn't playing traditional sax by any stretch of the imagination. So
a little bit more soft machine.
Yeah. But the idea of him playing something monophonic seems crazy.
Yeah, well, it was barely monophonic when Graham played it.
Lots of harmonics.
Yeah, basically. But
I love also.
Oh, sorry.
Also, just a story of Damon, really, and discovering him and meeting him. That's worth telling.
Yeah. Well, Damon and I and Graham all come from Colchester, and there's quite as with these, market towns, there's a small music community, and almost everybody has played in a band with almost everybody else. But the one thing there wasn't really was singers. There were lots of instrumentalists who also sang, but there were very few people who made singing their thing, and there were even fewer songwriters. And so even though people could play their instruments reasonably well, local gigs were just an appalling litany of dreadful song after dreadful song after dreadful song. And so when Graham said to me, I've been working with this friend of mine. He's playing at one of our venues tonight. Do you want to come and see him? I said, yeah, right. And I went to immediately. What became clear about Damon was that he was a songwriter. His songs were just fantastic. And that leapt off the stage, and it became supremely clear to me at that point that by far the most important thing is the songs. It doesn't even really matter that much whether you can play them very well in pop music. In fact, there's something quite charming about it not being played very well. So I chased him backstage at the end of the show and badgered him relentlessly for his phone number, and he took mine. And I said, if you ever need a drummer, give me a call. And he called me a couple of weeks later. And it turned out that I put an ad in the local paper for one of the bands I was playing in for a singer, and Damon had answered the ad, and we'd spoken on the phone, and we'd agreed to meet in the local pub one lunchtime. I duly turned up, sat there with my pint, and the bastard stood me up. So he's I found that I found the diary that I'd written the appointment in only recently, and so I shall publish that on the internet in due course.
But is there then an entry? Bastard didn't show.
I remember it very well. It never occurred to me that somebody would do that kind of thing. But, there we are. Then I got to know Damon.
Because he was in a duo, wasn't he?
Yes, he was in a duo with. He was at actually drama school at the time.
I was trying to, because I remember there's a picture of this duo, and it's got to be said, it looks very drama student.
Yes, it was.
Is the funny guy wearing a funny hat?
Yes,
guy
entirely in pink, wearing a bald, and wearing.
Is that a guess, Gary?
Wearing a peculiar hat. So
what was the hat?
A scarf.
It was pink and like a sort of fedora, maybe. Can't really remember. There's the
and you win £5.
Yeah.
So I completely ignored the guy in the hat who was desperately trying to get everybody's attention and went straight for Damon. I never saw the guy in the hat again. No, he's probably a massively famous actor now, or a director.
And how did the writing?
It was me, actually.
Well, he was bald. I mean, that's all I'll say.
Oh, careful. You don't recognise yourself as bald, do you? No.
I don't identify.
Identify, that was what I was after. But how did the writing then start to happen? Because obviously Dame's a great writer. Was he just presenting songs, or were you eventually working together? Or
yeah, he would turn up with ideas, still the way it works today. He would turn up with ideas in various stages of completeness, really. Sometimes there would just be a sound or some odd thing that he thought was interesting and could spark a collaborative process. Sometimes he turns up with something more finished. He rarely turns up with any words. So he's got a really, really interesting way of compensating for that. He always does the words last, but he can speak. He can speak using kind of finished sounding words, real sounding words, fluently. So he can sing but have it actually sound like he's saying things. And then I think he uses that. It just kind of comes out randomly. I think he uses that to spark ideas for what the words are going to be about.
That's quite often how I write. Yeah,
right.
I mean, I sing that gibberish as well. So,
yes,
yeah, but it usually stays like that, though, doesn't it, Gary?
So it usually yes.
I can do it, but I can't make it like English. He can do it, and if you were just sitting there, not listening too closely, you wouldn't notice he wasn't actually singing English words. But
do you sort of write as a unit though? After that, Dave, is it?
Yeah, we work collaboratively. Yeah, in the early days, we would have actual writing sessions in the rehearsal rooms, but that way lies madness, really. So these days, we just do it in the studio as we go.
But I'm surely Graham at least would come in with start stuff as well, rather than always Damon. I would have thought.
Yeah, it's not uniquely.
Or Alex, Alex. I mean,
I mean, you'd be expected to come in with ideas. You couldn't just turn up and go, "Oh, what are we going to do?" So everybody had to do their own homework. But it's Damon's songwriting still that keeps me in. Damon's songwriting and the four of ours ability to play live that keeps all of us interested, I think. And we've all written songs, but Damon has got the magic spark, and so we defer to him mostly. Everybody's done their own thing to some extent.
I was thinking about this the other day, actually, while I was waiting for a tube train. I saw the poster for Gorillaz playing Tottenham Football Stadium, and I was just wondering if there were any other person who's played football stadiums in two different bands that they front, or I'm not talking about sidemen. He's got, and I couldn't come up with the answer.
Phil Collins.
Yeah. Phil Collins, Genesis, and
certainly.
Himself. Still not two bands, but it'll do.
Gabriel.
I know. Yeah. I see what you mean. Yeah. Well, it's two different sets.
Yeah, two different. Yeah, but it's extraordinary.
Gabriel.
It's extraordinary. Peter Gabriel.
He's not stadium. I don't think he's
stadium, is he? No, he's more
really
arena.
Even the Sledgehammer times.
No, he was arena. He was a
really. Yeah.
But it's a rare occurrence. And do you?
Yes.
How do you deal with him having his other band? Is it like having two girlfriends, or? I mean, is there a certain amount of like, does God, he's doing that, or does it irk? Basically, Dave, come on, spit it out, son.
Well, I think these days, we went through a rocky relationship patch in the band, and one of our members left for a few years. And so when we got back together again, we had what I think was the first and the last band meeting where we all discussed things like our relationship and how we were going to work together. And one of the things we decided was we weren't going to get back on the Right Record Tour slog again. We were just going to, if we all fancied doing something, we would do it. If that meant nothing ever happened, then nothing would ever happen. But we were going to prioritize our friendship and our relationship between the four of us over making music together. So that's what we do. And sometimes people come up with interesting ideas. 2009, the concerts that became British Summertime were just starting in Hyde Park, and we got asked if we wanted to headline the first of those. It was very hard to turn that down. So we got back together again for that. 2012, we got a phone call. We got the Olympics. Would you like to headline the party at the end of the Olympics? It's not something you can say no to, is it? No, I'm not interested in this stupid Olympics party. You just get those. So we said yes to that. So, from time to time, people come to us with interesting ideas. Wembley Stadium was the last one. Never occurred to us that we might be able to play Wembley Stadium. And then suddenly we got a phone call. Would you like to do it? You can't say no, can you? That's like the bucket list item. That's the number one bucket list item for people in bands. So
how was it?
Fantastic. There's loads of crap talked about these things, isn't there? The people used to say that the sound of the crowd at Wembley Stadium was like no other crowd on earth. And I went, what a load of crap. That's another of these stupid music industry legends. And of course you walk on, and Wembley Stadium's actually quite small for a stadium. It's not actually that much bigger in footprint than the football pitch it's around. The seats pretty much go straight up because land's quite expensive in Wembley, as it turns out. So you can see everybody's face. You can see people smiling. You can see people chatting with their neighbours. And when they scream, it's like 90,000 people screaming in your ear. It is like nothing else you've ever heard. And took me completely by surprise. And it was fantastic. And that gives the fact that everybody's close enough to see the whites of their eyes, gives it this intimacy that stadium gigs I've never found they have. places like Glastonbury, you can't even see the front row when the sun goes down. Let alone the people at the back. Wembley, you can see everybody. You can see whether they're enjoying it, and they can see you.
But there's something about Wembley, something about the design of Wembley. I would say, I've only played the old one, and I think the old one was perhaps bigger but less people. But there's something incredibly efficient about this Wembley, about how it works for it. It's like gigs have been taken into account in a way that they weren't before.
Yeah,
the old one.
No, I think you're probably right, but the whole thing is just so iconic. I very rarely get nervous before I go on stage, but I was dancing around from foot to foot. We all were before we went on stage at Wembley. The pressure was just like, what if we mess this up? It's just, in front of the entire world. There was a massive amount of TV cameras there, and they were filming the whole thing. It's like that would really be messing it up big time. And so I just knackered my knee. I rather unwisely decided I was going to play tennis halfway through the tour, and of course I thought, well, I'll just take it easy so I don't injure myself. And of course I tore a ligament in my knee, so I was on crutches when we played Wembley. I was waiting to go into the hospital. So I thought, well, I'm going to hobble on stage, and if I fall over, I fall over. Luckily I didn't. And but it's amazing, the power of music. The minute the first notes of the first chords of the first song played, all of that gets washed away, doesn't it? And all of that anxiety, all of the fear, the magic of music washes it away. And I went, relax. I know I can do this. I know what I'm doing here. This is all right.
I actually find playing big stages much more tiring, because you're trying to project a lot more to an audience. I mean, I know that you've got cameras and stuff, but you're walking more, you're trying to give more. We're in an intimate situation, or the smaller the gig, the less you have to do. It's quite exhausting.
Yeah, well, it's exhausting either way for me.
You can't walk around because you've got to stop behind your kit.
Well, I have to give it the big I am in the stadium, which you don't if you play in the 100 Club. But if you play in the 100 Club, it's like playing in a sauna, isn't it? So it's so insanely hot. No matter if you have fans behind you, like fans blowing the air, it's like having fan heaters. They're blowing this turbocharged hot air at you,
especially when you're all smoking at the same time. But you mentioned that, and I wanted to pick you up on something. Or pick you up. I wanted to ask you about something because on Oxford Street, you said, and I miss this because late 80s, I'm with Spandau, early 90s, I'm living in LA. The Syndrome Club. What was the Syndrome Club?
So it's right next to Tottenham Court Road Tube, and it was a tiny little subterranean club, which is no longer there. But they said free entry for anyone in a band, and you could get drinks for £1. So given that we had £5 a week to live on, you could get almost drunk for
five drinks.
If only you do want to eat or smoke. And the eating we did because every day we would drop in on somebody unannounced, somebody from the label, somebody from the publisher, whoever, the lighting company, whoever. We would just drop in unannounced around lunchtime, and they would take us out for lunch. That's sorted. Turned out that was a brilliant thing to do, because then we were mates with all these people, and when the wheels fell off, as they did after the first album, all our mates waded in and rescued us. So we had the classic manager takes all your money at the end of the first album thing. But so the smoking thing and the eating thing to some extent, we used to go to Matrix Studios in the just around the corner.
Yes.
And so we did what we thought was a really sneaky deal with the studio owner, where he would buy us a pizza each and a packet of cigarettes each every day we recorded in his studio. Of course, it turned out rather. So
Nigel.
Nigel, exactly.
Nigel, yeah.
God bless him. So we were there all the time. If nothing else was going on, we were in Nigel's studio or stars. So of course it turned out rather later that what we thought was our brilliant sneaky deal was actually set up by the label who were actually funding all of this, but it was just free songs for them, basically, for the price of a pizza. They got all of these.
I remember Boy George saying that before he became successful, for about 2 years he lived on canapes because he just managed to get into every opening of every gallery or and that's all he ate. Different in London.
Yeah. Syndrome was another of these ways of coping if you're in a struggling indie band. So if you're in a struggling indie band, you could get in free drinks for £1, and they had a dance floor at the back, tiny little dance floor. And so if your single was out, you would pray that the DJ was going to play it, and you would pray that the kind of 20 club goers who weren't in bands were going to get down on the dance floor and dance to it. So your single would come on, and you would sidle over to the dance floor and nonchalantly, not caring one way or the other, and just have a quick glance to see if anyone was actually dancing, and then sidle back to the bar and get your second £1 Pernod and Black.
Talking of which, so who are the bands? Because in the book there's Spitfire, I think, were contemporaries of yours, right? So, and yes. Who else? Who else is down at the Syndrome?
Well, everybody was really down at Syndrome. It was an odd thing. There was a group of us, all organised by a woman called Polly, who at the time worked at our label and went on to work at Best in Press with
Polly Birkbeck.
Polly Birkbeck. So she was like the social secretary for the indie scene, really. And literally everybody would ring up Polly, where are we going tonight? Who's playing? Polly would sort it all out, get us all on the guest list. And so it was the same kind of, it was like 30 of the same 100 people would be at each of these events. So we all knew each other. So every night we were out with the same crowd. It was really quite extraordinary. But if you're going to ask me who the other bands were, I had absolutely no idea.
Failures guy.
We'll cut around.
Anyway, Miranda Sawyer gets credit. Miranda Sawyer gets credit on this, Dave, for editing. What did she do?
Well, when I finally decided to launch in with the book, it took me 2 years to decide if I didn't get some professional help, it was never going to happen. So I rang up Miranda, who I've known for decades, and I said, I'm not even sure if these photos are good enough for a book. So I sent her a bunch of the photos. She got straight back to me. Yes, right. We're going to have a meeting. We're going to do this. We're going to do that.
Have you seen Brooklyn Beckham's book?
But she was basically in charge of making me do all the things that I needed to do. So
she drove it.
She drove it, really. She'd done books before. She knew how to do it. She was like the producer, really. And she was just really, really supportive as well, and really positive about the whole thing. Was really excited about the book coming out. She still loves music, all those bands. She still knows everybody. Still very much in that world. And she does
it. She does a 90s podcast, doesn't she? I think
she does. Yes. Yeah.
So where can you get it? When's it coming out, Dave?
The book is out. You can get it at all good booksellers. You can even get it on Amazon. So I think I get a quarter of a penny if you get it on Amazon. But there we are. It's better than nothing.
Right. There's all sorts of independent online booksellers as well, who it's good to get things. Very good.
I've got it on PDF, but it's not quite as exciting on PDF, is it?
No.
I'll post you both books. Don't worry.
Oh, that'd be fun. It is a lovely. I thoroughly recommend it to everyone. And it's like this group of really nice boys going around.
Because you're absolutely right, Guy. Because I looked at those pictures and thought, what they're going to ingest in their bodies for the next, how many years, and
and they're all so innocent. And their little Fred Perrys and their Ash puppies,
I know, so innocent. But it is that you've captured an amazing moment of when it's still the dream, right?
And people don't see that, do they? The early pictures of a band are all either on stage or doing rather sort of wooden photo sessions. Nobody's learnt how to loosen up. And so you don't see that side of most bands, the kind of behind the scenes, what it was actually like. And even now, people expect somebody to whip out a phone when something happens. In those days, you could actually relax in the dressing room. What went on in the dressing room was private, so you could be yourself. You didn't have to suck your cheeks in and purse your lips. You could just be you. So I've got all these pictures of us just being us.
Yeah, it feels like your bedsit period.
Yeah, well, quite literally, it was our bedsit period. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Dave.
No worries.
Lovely to see you, mate.
Yeah, you too.